A couple of months back at the end of August at Gamescom, an independent studio called Anima Interactive revealed their game, Takers North, which was about illegal immigrants illegally infiltrating the border of the United States. Now, of course, because it was another activist game, not a proper game, people looked at it, poked at it, laughed at it, talked about it. They went radio silent. They vanished from the internet for a while. But as always, and I mean always, they're back to play victim. Hi everyone, it's Az here from HeelvsBabyface. It's been a bit of a rough ride recently. Blimey, you try saying that 3 times with a mouthful of marbles. For video game companies that are pushing activism as opposed to entertainment. We've seen some spectacular failures, even at the AAA level, particularly with that of Dragon Age The Veilguard, which follows a fictitious group of Portlandian baristas who are working for their local socialist coffee shop as they go around explaining to each other what their current gender is. Yeah, it didn't do too well. But also at indie level, we're finding these failures are deep-rooted. Do you remember that Relooted video game whose demo dropped about 3 weeks or so ago that was pushed by Microsoft Studios that centers around a group of black people stealing things? Well, anyway, that still hasn't managed to get past 22 concurrent players. Now, the game we're going to talk about in this video is called Takers North, and it centers around a group of illegal aliens, illegal immigrants, who are invading the southern border of the United States of America, bypassing the due process, putting additional strain on the economy, on the workforce, on the people's taxes. Anyway, don't worry about that because it's all just stunning and brave, and my sources trust me, bro. Well, they managed to get a staggering $61,000 to make their video game, which is made up, apparently, of stories of immigrants who were brought up via coyotes, one can only imagine, into the United States of America. Now, they thought they were being amazingly progressive, stunning, and brave when they announced this at Gamescom. Of course, when the person introduced herself before the game, she gave her pronouns because we're dealing with tapped in the head people. And it just got a lot of ire and mockery from people who see things like this for exactly what it is, which is performative activism. You know this is made by the same group of people that will create a video game like this, and yet they'll also fly the flag of the Ukraine in their bios, and more importantly, not even begin to understand the hypocrisy of that as well. But they'll only fly it for as long as it's trendy, socially acceptable, and will get them internet clout within their special little circle jerk of friends. Now, Twitch streamer Asmongold reacted to it as it pretty much happened in real time, and headlines like this began to sprout up. Did Asmongold just end an indie game? Asmongold versus Takers North controversy explained. Streaming under the title The Illegal Migrant Simulator is insane. Asmongold wasted no time voicing strong disapproval. He openly dismissed the project's intent. This isn't a game, quote. It's propaganda, he said, questioning whether it represented the realities of illegal immigration. Well, of course, it doesn't, because it paints a very roses and sunsets, and the people who are trying to protect their borders are the villains, whereas the poor people who are trying to escape the life that they currently have for a better world where they could, I don't know, commit crime, identity theft, steal jobs, etc., are portrayed as the heroes of this story. His comments touched on hot button issues like jobs, social services, identity theft, sparking immediate division amongst viewers. That I doubt massively. Some saw it as unfiltered honesty. Others accused the streamer of misrepresenting the developer's goals. Wow, my goodness, do you know what it sounds like we've got here, folks? It sounds like we've got opinions. Crazy, huh? It sounds like we've got some people who have got some opinions on stuff, which is absolutely fine and allowed, because once upon a time we could have opinions, but nowadays, of course, you can only have the right opinion. Shortly after Asmongold's reaction spread, users noticed that Anima Interactive's official X account had been deactivated. Screenshots and user threads suggested the move was connected to the wave of online attention, though the studio has not released an official statement. And that in itself, again, is rather interesting, because after all, when you're making a video game, you want as many customers as possible. And I would also go so far as, if you're wanting it thematically to be some sort of activism, then of course you want as many eyes as possible, because it's not about the money now, it's about spreading the message. So why would you go and run away when you got exactly what your product wanted, which was eyes on the topic? Now, I personally don't buy into the narrative that they got too much unwarranted attention and therefore shut down all communication channels so that they didn't have to be exposed to it and they could just focus on the game. And the reason why I don't buy into that is because when you're making a game which you know has a divisive topic, because the topic of immigration is exceedingly paramount in the public eye right now worldwide, never mind just in the United States of America, then you know that you're going to have divisive opinions about it. Surely, again, you would want to say, hey, come play our video game, see it from this perspective, see if it changes your mind. No, the narrative that I personally buy into is the fact that this isn't made for an audience. There was no real desire to cultivate a player base behind this. This was purely done for activism reasons, most likely funded externally as well. Where that money comes from, who knows? We tend to find that a lot of this actually comes through government grants, or grants which come from the government, filtered through corporations, etc., etc., in an effort to try and paint a rosy picture about illegal immigration. And as Asmongold himself said, was more of a propaganda tool and not an entertainment tool in any way, shape, or form. And that's why they shut down the communication channels, because they didn't want communication. Anyway, the studio is now back, but not really, because about 3 or so days ago, they released a statement where they play victim, and you're never going to believe this, folks, but they ended up deleting it. But the great thing is, of course, is that the internet is forever. And so let's go through it, shall we? Replacing fear with empathy. I'll bet iDubbbz is going to bloody love this article. He's the king of empathy, don't you know? A statement from Takers North creative director Carla Reyes. We are currently in the midst of Hispanic Heritage Month. We're not. We're 6 days into October. A time typically marked by vibrant festivals and cultural celebrations. Well, if hot young women dressed up as sexy nurses is what you're talking about, then we're on the same page. But this year, some of that joy is muted. Following a recent Supreme Court ruling, many Hispanic heritage gatherings across the US have been cancelled. as fears over immigration enforcement and safety concerns rise. Well, you would only have concerns if you were there in the US illegally. If you are a legal citizen of the United States, then you wouldn't have any concerns because you can prove that you are illegal. Don't worry about it. These cancellations contribute to a pattern of cultural erasure that is pushing historically marginalized communities into the shadows. Shut up. Honestly, just shut up already. Again, it's dismissing what the actual issue is. Now, most people have no problem, including, by the way, the President of the United States, has no problem with people coming into the country legally and attempting to gain citizenship legally, going through the due process of it all legally. They have no problem with that whatsoever. What they do have a problem is, and what a lot of the citizens have a problem with, and again, this is an epidemic of the West right now, is the illegal people coming into the country, siphoning off resources from that country, stealing identities, stealing jobs, social securities, etc., etc. That's what people have an issue with. People who come in, go through the right chains, get themselves legal, can go out and legally work and join the workforce and contribute. People don't care about. So stop with your bollocks and stop with your sugarcoating, because you just come across as disingenuous. I've come to know these shadows well. In late August, Anima Interactive and I became targets of a viral online harassment campaign. After giving a presentation at Gamescom, where I gave my pronouns because I'm a fucking wanker, the world's largest video game convention, a prominent streamer, just say Asmongold. Say his name. Don't be say his name and he'll appear. No, say his name. Don't be a coward. Again, just displaying cowardice here. With a large right-wing following. Again, anything which is right of Stalin is far right to these people. They are insane. And so what? What if he does have a large right-wing audience? So what? All you're really saying is he's got an audience of people that might not agree with us, or he's got an audience of people that have a different opinion to us on certain matters. But there's no desire, seemingly, here to find any common ground or even try to persuade people or change minds. Because you don't want to change right, you just want to dictate. That's what you want to do, just dictate. A large right-wing following broadcast my talk to his audience. That should be great. You should be happy about that. A bigger audience for your video game. Reaching millions of views. This sounds like great exposure for you. Why are you worried? This escalated into direct personal attacks. Doxing attempts, whatever. Nobody gives a toss. Forcing us to minimize our online presence to protect our safety and security. You didn't have to. Not at all. Not at all. These were decisions that were made by you. Your video game has every right to exist, but do you know what it doesn't have the right to? Customers. And do you know what else it doesn't have the right to either? Any fucking respect. Both of those have to be earned. And when you come across as a bunch of sniveling activists that play victim, then something tells me you're not going to garner yourself to that type of audience. Now, for all of our sanities, I bypassed a load of absolute nonsense, but I'll take us to here. Why is Take Us North a video game? The word game may seem inappropriate for a project centered around migration. No, it's not about migration. It's about illegal immigration. There's a big difference between the two. And the fact, by the way, that you can't say what it actually is really gives away your motivations here. And, again, how disingenuous you are about the whole thing. But games have evolved far beyond traditional stereotypes and can serve as strong drivers of community and connection. Video games don't just tell stories, they ask you to hold their weight. I believe they're one of the greatest vehicles for empathy. Eek. One of Takers North's fundamental design principles is to avoid abstracting the player from the emotional impact of migration. It's not migration. It's not migration, it's illegal immigration. This requires a profound commitment to sensitivity, ensuring we can convey some different truths. Different truths. You mean lies? Without being gratuitous. The primary goal of Takers North isn't for a player to win or lose, but to engage in an experience grounded in reality. It is the furthest thing from reality, judging by what we've seen as regards to the gameplay, and confront choices, stakes, and sacrifices that reflect those of migrants and asylum seekers. We're carefully weaving real-world stories into the tapestry of this project, stories that encompass not just trauma, but a broad range of human emotions, moments of love, laughter, hope, connection that persist even in the most challenging circumstances. We aim to honor the individuals behind the stories with integrity and dignity. What about the integrity and dignity of the victims of violent crime in America to illegal immigrants? What about their, in your words, integrity and dignity? I guess they don't matter, but it's easy to see why it doesn't matter when you listen to this absolute unbelievable retardation. Does Takers North condone or glorify human trafficking? Absolutely not. Firstly, it's important to distinguish between trafficking and smuggling. Human trafficking involves force, fraud, or coercion for exploitation, a heinous crime that our development team and the project denounce. Human smuggling, on the other hand, is the facilitation of passage for a fee, a consensual transaction to illegally cross a border. To illegally cross a border. This is 100% propaganda. 100%. So let's jump now to where they decide to address that word itself. Is Takers North propaganda? Propaganda takes an easy path to a conclusion and makes sweeping statements on morality. In contrast, Takers North embraces complexity rather than reducing it. The project explores moral ambiguity and provokes difficult questions rather than providing simple answers. Well, you keep referring to it as migration and not illegal immigration, so you can't even get that bit right to start with. This is storytelling as inquiry, not indoctrination, even though we say it's certain words when it's actually something completely different. By placing our audience in the shoes of my illegal immigrants, we create conditions for empathy to emerge. We hope to replace fear and anger with the transformative work of understanding by shining a light on perspectives so often cast in the shadows. Then enter the country legally through the legal channels. The campaign against Takers North is not an isolated incident. It's a symptom of the rising climate of fear and censorship that threatens the soul of a free society. True freedom of expression transcends our right to speak. It encompasses our collective ability to listen, to question, and to engage with art and ideas that challenge us. Nothing is threatening your freedom of expression. Your video game can exist. Nobody is going to have it pulled down. The government isn't going to intervene and interject and say, this video game should be banned. Your freedom of expression is intact. But people don't have to listen to your bollocks and your propaganda. That's something complete and utterly different. And then they end with this irony. The wave of harassment against us has been met by a powerful and humbling countercurrent of solidarity led by artists, developers, and advocates across the globe. I doubt it. It's probably your echo chamber you're referring to. The intensity of this reaction proves we've struck something vital and reinforces why we do this work. For the people whose stories we're sharing, para mi gente, resilience is a through line. We will honor their journeys by continuing our own with Take Us North, and we will not be silenced. They deleted the story. They silenced themselves because they pulled down the art. Take Us North has every right to exist. It also has every right to be criticized to hell and back. The fact that you still refuse to give a true definition of what your video game is about, disguising it with flowery language, shows exactly how disingenuous you are as a group of developers. And then when you tag on the fact that after your article was criticized, you decided to pull it down, displays cowardice of a top level. The kind of cowardice that exists when you know you've been caught with your hand in the cookie jar and you're not going to be able to talk yourself out of that situation. Take Us North is propaganda. There is no two ways about it, and that's the way that it's always going to sit, particularly in gamers' eyes. And whereas you might have some backers on Kickstarter, this isn't going to get any type of following whatsoever, and you're not going to change any hearts. And the main reason why you're not going to change any hearts is because you as a group of developers can't even tell the fucking truth in the first place. So why are you worth listening to? You're not. I'll see you in the next video. You take care. Goodbye, Blue Boo.